years until I learned it from Sonia and in Desikachar's tradition, and it's much more terse. And that was when we started learning the Vyahritis and the Shiras. I know that a practical answer to this as to why we do this is that yoga practitioners, and I know Val Schneiderman uses this, and I know in the Desikachar tradition also, it's a pranayama exercise to be done in a couple of different ways. One way is to maybe not do it out loud, but to silently chant Om Bhuvaha, Ogum Suvaha, Om Mahaha, all the way on the inhale, and then retain as you silently chant Tat Savitur Varenyam, and so on. And then on the exhale, you might want to go Om Apo Jyoti Raso, but you can't do it out loud. You know, it would be hard to do it out loud, but so that's an exercise. And there are other methods of incorporating that. So it is often used in that way. And other than that, I don't know why we have those. Technically translated, of course, the first three are seem to be the most important, if you will. Bhuhu translates to earth, and bhuvaha is that in-between realm. The antara, the atmosphere, is sometimes how it's translated. And suvaha is the heavens, or svaha. Sometimes it's just svaha, suvaha. And then maha, literally, it has to do with the great, or the mahat. And it's interesting, I don't know if maybe these were the seeds of Sankhya. Bob, I don't know if you know this and if you can weigh in, but maha suggests greatness, or maybe the great whole of existence. Janaha is person, human being. Tapaha, heating, tapas, heating. And satyam is truth. And down at the bottom in the shiras, apaha is water. Jyoti is light. Rasa is the taste and the flavor. Amritam is the nectar of immortality. Brahma is Brahma. Bhur, that's bhuhu again, back to the earth. And bhuvasuvarom, bhur bhuvasuvarom, just like the very beginning. So we come full circle in a way, in a sense. We end back at the beginning with the three: the earth, the atmosphere, and the heavens. Elizabeth, can you chant the, and you know, when we do jata and ghana, we do it with this chant.
Right.
And Elizabeth, I was wondering, are you prepared well enough, or unprepared, if you just want to wing it? Can you do the, what do I want to say? The song, the krama of that, so that everybody could hear that?
I'm going to cheat.
Cheat. Oh, yeah, cheat.
Okay, I have my mantra valley right here.
And I'd like all of you to listen. And if this is of interest to you, then we'll work on it in this way. And I can type out the krama and the jata and the ghana. But it might be fun for you to hear this, how we learn it.
Okay. So you just the krama.
Yeah.
Okay. Om Tat Savituhu Savitur Varenyam Varenyam Bhargaha Bhargo Devasya Devasya Dhimahi Dhimahiti Dhimahi Dhiyo Yaha Yonaha Nah Prachodayat Prachodayaditi Prachodayat.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Were you able to observe or notice the pattern and what that pattern is? Yeah. Does anyone want to say? What she did was chant the first word and then the second word. And then she took a breath, and then the second word became the first word. And then she chanted the third word. So it's 1, 2, and then 2, 3, and then 3, 4. And this is a mnemonic device. It's for memory. So if we do jata, it sounds like this. See if you can hear what's going on. So in jata, I'm going to go 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2, and then move on to the next two words and so on. So here it goes. Om Tat Savitus Savitus Tat Tat Savituhu Savitur Varenyam Varenyagung Savitus Savitur Varenyam Varenyam Bhargo Bhargo Varenyam Varenyam Bhargaha Bhargo Devasya Devasya Bhargo Bhargo Devasya Devasya Dhimahi Dhimahi Devasya Devasya Dhimahi Dhimahiti Dhimahi Dhiyo yo yo dhiyo dhiyo yaha yo no yo naha nah prachodayat prachodayan no nah prachodayat prachodayaditi prachodayat. Did you follow? Now give me a thumbs up if you would like to do this next week. I'm not ready for I don't have it printed out yet, but okay, we'll do this next week. Shall we chant the whole thing once more before we leave it and go on to the Bhagavad Gita? Okay, here we go. Om Bhuhu Om Bhuvaha Om Suvaha Om Mahaha Om Janaha Om Tapaha Om Satyam Om Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo yo nah prachodayat. Om Apo Jyoti Raso Amr Brahma bhur bhuvasuvaro. Are there any observations or questions or comments before we move on to the Bhagavad Gita?
Leslie, I just thought it was interesting in the krama and the what's the other one called?
Jata.
The jata. That so many of the words changed their like original form. So if you don't know, it gets a little
Yes.
complicated.
Yes. So we learn Sanskrit grammar by learning to chant this way because we're learning to chant the sandhis. And the sandhi is simply the change. When a word is followed by one word, depending on the consonant that begins that second word, there's going to be a change in how the first word sounds so that it blends into the second word. And those are just, lessons in Sanskrit grammar. So we learn to chant it before even understanding it. We just accept that there are going to be differences, when we chant the jata, and differences when we chant the Samhita, or the Samhita is the actual chant. We all chanted the Samhita, but the krama begins to teach us about those changes. Thank you for pointing that out.
And Leslie, to your question about Sankhya, this is actually earlier than Sankhya. These Vyahritis are in, well, they're in the Vedas, but it's unpacked actually in the Taittiriya Upanishad. I just looked it up because I was just reading it. It's in the Vali, the first section of the Taittiriya Upanishad.
Yes.
The fifth lesson, if you feel like looking it up.
Om bhuvasuvariti va etas tisraha. Yeah, I was just listening to it in the car today.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. It's great. If you all are interested in learning the Taittiriya Upanishad, we can start to chant it too. Lots of things to do in the new year. Thank you, Bob. And I was wondering, since this chant is earlier, if maybe it was a precursor or somehow informed the people who came up with the Sankhya.
Perhaps they do share some of the terminology,
Yeah.
but it's thought at least at the period of the Taittiriya that these were metaphors. Buhu would have been is described in that section fire, and Bhuvaha is air, and Suvaha is the sun, and
Yes.
Maha is the moon. So
Yeah.
they would have had more metaphoric associations in this earlier period, but it's possible that the terminology then got repurposed by Sankhya.
Thank you. Oh, it's always, I feel like it's illegal to have you here, Bob. You give us all these treats. Thank you. Now then, Bhagavad Gita. Good heavens. Okay. I've completely forgotten where we ended up. I think we ended up at the end of a column. Did we not? Did we go through 59?
We stopped at 50, at least on my page, I have it noted that we stopped at 58.
Oh, we stopped at 58? Okay.
I have we stopped at 59. I have some notes on the verse of 59, so I think 60 is the next one.
You're right, Patty. I just looked down and saw I had some as well.
Okay. All right. So verse 59, chapter 2. We'll repeat, let's chant 59. And just so that we have some inkling of what the heck we're talking about, I'm just throwing out a translation for 59 to begin with. Verse 59, chapter 2. Sense objects turn away from the abstinent man, but the taste for them remains. but the taste also turns away from him who has seen the Supreme. So the one who truly sees is not affected by the lure of chocolate, shall we say. Om Vishaya Vinivartante Niraharasya Dehinaha Rasa Varjan Rasopyasya Parandrishtva Nivartate. Are you okay to move on? 60? Okay. Om Yatato Hyapi Kaunteya Purushasya Vipaschitaha Indriyani Pramathini Haranti Prasabham Manaha. I'll do 2 lines at a time and then repeat them. Om Yatato Hyapi Kaunteya Purushasya Vipaschitaha Yatato Hyapi Kaunteya Purushasya Vipaschitaha Indriyani Pramathini Haranti Prasabham Manaha Indriyani Pramathini Haranti Prasabham Manaha. Now let's chant through the verse twice through. Om Yatato Hyapi Kaunteya Purushasya Vipaschitaha Indriyani Pramathini Haranti Prasabham Manaha Yatato Hyapi Kaunteya Purushasya Vipaschitaha Indriyani Pramathini Haranti Prasabham Manaha. So unmute yourself if you have anything you want to say about this or if you'd like to repeat anything. Otherwise, we'll just move on to 61. Okay. Om Tani Sarvani Sanyamya Yukta Asita Matparaha Vashehi Yasyendriyani Tasya Prajna Pratishtita. 2 lines at a time and repeated. Om Tani Sarvani Sanyamya Yukta Asita Matparaha Tani Sarvani Sanyamya Yukta Asita Matparaha Vashehi Yasyendriyani Tasya Prajna Pratishtita. Vashehi yasyendriyani tasya prajna pratishtita. Now twice through the whole verse. Om Tani sarvani sanyamya yukta asita matparaha vashehi yasyendriyani tasya prajna pratishtita. Tani sarvani sanyamya yukta asita matparaha vashehi yasyendriyani tasya prajna pratishtita. Shall we move on to 62? Oh, yes, Rebecca? Can you unmute yourself, please?
Sorry, I'm looking at the document on Google Docs. So my question is, it seems like in yukta and tasya, like the A is short. Yukta, and there's a break
Yes.
before we move. Okay, and then just that second word in the last line. What's with the J? Pranya, like it's not really
Okay.
pranya.
Okay, so technically a J is the J sound, and it's supposed to come from the soft palate way back in the back of the mouth in front of the throat. J. So just say Jinya, Jinya,
Jinya,
Jinya, Jinya.
Jinya.
But now
What's my tongue doing when I'm saying that?
J. You mean after it freaks out?
Yeah.
Prajna. Well, I go like this. Prajna. So it almost sounds like a gut. It almost feels also like it's coming from the throat further back, but it's not supposed to. Prajna.
Okay.
So
Prajna.
But I've also had people teach it to me as prajna. Prajna.
Prajna. Prajna.
Yes.
Prajna.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you have to make it all in one syllable.
Right.
Prajna.
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 Prajna. Prajna.
And if you wanted to do it that way, it might help to make a very brief pause after the j. So it would be prajna. Prajna.
Prajna. Prajna. Prajna. Prajna. Okay. Gracias.
But then sometimes when we get going, that j gets dropped and we end up with prajna.
Prajna. Prajna.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it always reminds me, so this word means knowledge or supreme knowledge. Prajna, J-N-A, long A, that means knowledge, wisdom, to know. Prajna, knowledge, true, sublime, profound knowledge. Prajna. And it's the cognate to our Western world is that it is related. J-N-A is related to K-N-O, like in knowledge. You know, by yoga, we know something. We never say the K. And is it Greek? That's gnosis, G-N-O-S-S-I-S. Is that Greek or Latin? I'm not sure. Gnosis. So we in English, that K is definitely formed from the throat. But in what is now India, the sound was said to have come from a little bit in front of the throat. Jnana.
Okay. Jnana.
Jnana.
Thank you.
Jnana. Now, where were we? Are we doing this again or are we moving on? I can't remember.
I think we're getting ready to move on if there weren't questions.
Okay, all right. Is everybody ready to envelop your mouth around the next words, group of words? Yoga, Sanskrit, asana of the tongue. 62. Dhyayato vishayan punsaha sangasteshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kamaha kamat krodho bhijayate. So let's do 2 lines at a time. And notice, so in the 3rd line, just so, I want to point that out, sanjayate, so that those same letters, but they're in reversed. And notice, for most of us, it's much easier to pronounce that. So everyone just say sanjayate, sanjayate, sanjayate. And now, just for a brief moment, go back to verse 61, the last line, and in the middle, prajna, prajna, prajna. They're so similar that just the letters are reversed. Let's do 2 lines at a time. Om Dhyayato vishayan punsaha sangasteshu pajayate. Dhyayato vishayan punsaha sangasteshu pajayate. Sangat sanjayate kamaha kamat krodho bhijayate. Sangat sanjayate kamaha kamat krodho bhijayate. And just a reminder, always when there's an apostrophe, it is taking the place of the letter A. So that word was initially abhijayate, but because it was, so originally it was krodhaha abhijayate, but then there's a sandhi, so it becomes krodho bhijayate, so that we can chant it more fluently. Let's chant this verse twice through. Om Dhyayato vishayan punsaha sangasteshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kamaha kamat krodho bhijayate. Dhyayato vishayan punsaha sangasteshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kamaha kamat krodho bhijayate. So if there are no questions or comments, we'll move on to 63. Om Krodhad Bhavati Sammoha Sammohat Smriti Vibhramaha Smriti Bhranshad Buddhinasho Buddhinashat Pranashyati. 2 lines at a time. Om Krodhad bhavati sammohaha. Sammohat smriti vibhramaha. Krodhad bhavati sammohaha. Sammohat smriti vibhramaha. Smriti Bhranshad Buddhinasho. Buddhinashat Pranashyati. Smriti Bhranshad Buddhinasho. Buddhinashat Pranashyati. And then the whole verse twice through. Om Krodhad bhavadhi sammohaha. Sammohat smriti vibhramaha. Smriti bhranshad buddhinasho. Buddhinashat pranashyati. Gosh, we have one more page after this. Let's chant this column from 60 through 63. Om Yatato Hyapi Kaunteya Purushasya Vipashchitaha Indriyani Pramathini Haranti Prasabham Manaha Tani Sarvani Sanyamya Yukta Asita Matparaha Vashehi Yasyendriyani Tasya Prajna Pratishtita Dhyayato Vishayan Punsaha Sangasteshu Pajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha Kamat Krodho Bhijayate Krodhad Bhavati Sanmohaha Sammohat Smriti Vibhramaha Smriti Bhranshad Buddhinasho. Buddhinashat Pranashyati. Meaning, Trustee Sergeant here, number 60. The turbulent senses carry away forcibly the mind, Arjuna. Turbulent senses. The senses are likened to horses that are wild. And they carry away the mind, Arjuna, even of the striving man of wisdom. 61. Restraining all these senses, disciplined, he should sit, intent on me. He whose senses are controlled, his wisdom stands firm. 62. For a man dwelling on the objects of the senses, an attachment to them is born. From attachment, desire is born. From desire, anger is born. 63. From anger arises delusion. From delusion, loss of the memory. From loss of the memory, destruction of discrimination. From destruction of discrimination, one is lost. Do we really need to end there? Bob, do you have Graham Schweig's handy? If you don't, I do, but I thought it would be nice to hear you read the
I
translation.
do. I do, and I apologize. I'm in a very wonky connection today. So can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can everyone hear Bob? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Okay, thumbs up for right now. Oh,
Okay, I'll give it a go. We're starting from six. Well, we're starting from 60, right?
yes.
Okay. So, indeed, even for one who is striving, O Contea, for the person of discrimination, the impetuous senses forcibly carry away the mind. Restraining all these senses, one should be seated while absorbed in yoga, wholly intent on me. For one whose senses are under control, for that one, profound knowledge is firmly established. That was 61. Here's 62. For a person dwelling on the objects of the senses, attachment to them develops. From attachment, selfish desire develops. From desire, anger develops. 63 is the last part of that sentence. From anger comes bewilderment. From bewilderment, disturbed memory. From disturbed memory, loss of discernment. And from loss of discernment, one becomes lost. So I
Okay.
love that. I love that his translation of Smrti Bhranti there, the disturbed
Yeah.
memory. Because that's what Arjuna says in chapter 18 when Krishna finally asks him, "Have you heard my teachings?" He says, "Yes, my memory has been restored." So I love that sense that we have access to that if we can settle our minds.
Thank you so much for that. It's like when our memory is correct, it can serve us as a friend. When it's not correct and we believe it to be correct, it can be our enemy. Just like that verse about the self. The self can be a friend or the enemy.
What was that translation, or whose translation was that Bob read?
Graham Schweig. It looks like this. Can you see?
Can you lift it up a little? Yes. Oh, okay.
SCHW. What is it? What is he? SCHWEIG. You can get his book easily on Amazon.
Great. Thank
It's
you.
very user friendly. It's very readable. And as Bob pointed out a couple of weeks ago, Sanskrit, the order of words in the sentence is different from the order of words in our English sentences. But Graham Schweig managed to translate it and have it all in the same order as it is in the Sanskrit, which is amazing. So we can really get a sense of it. I'd like to do one more verse, but I promised my husband I'd make the salad before dinner. But actually, I wonder, maybe we could squeeze in one more. The content of these verses, I've always, it's like an avalanche. We want something. The senses are calling out for something and we want something. And if we're not gratified, then anger comes in. And if we're overcome by anger, then delusion comes in. And then as he's saying, as delusion comes in, our memory is incorrect, it's inaccurate. And then there's a snowball effect of all the bad things, all the distressing things that happen to us. And we seem to be in the middle of that part of it. But there's a happy ending. More or less. I wonder, yeah, we just have one more page to go. We might be able to get through it all next week. Oh, no, it's a page and a half. So we'll do that next time. Well, we'll see how far we can go next week. I'd like to at least get up to verse 69 and 70 because they're so beautiful. Let's all chant Om together. I wish I could hear everybody. Om. Now the closing invocations. Oh, I forgot to chant Sahanavavatu. Let's do that. Let's chant Sahanavavatu. It's in the it's all on the invocation handout. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryang Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. You know, it's always chanted at the beginning, but what's nice about chanting it near the end of our session together is that it reminds us to be, to keep this spirit, the spirit of this chant in as we, so we're not mean to the next people that we talk to. So we can keep that spirit of working together. It's just such a beautiful chant, isn't it? May we both be protected. May we be nourished. May our work together be vigorous. And may there be no animosity among us. Now the closing prayers. Yadaksharapadabrashtam matrahinantu yad bhavet tatsarvam kshamyatan deva Narayana namostute Shrimate Narayanaya namo namaha Kayena vacha manasendriyairva Buddhyatmana va Prakrite Swabhavat Karomi Yadyat Sakalam Parasmai Narayana Yeti Samarpayami Sarvam Shri Krishnarpanamastu. Everyone, thank you so much. Feel free to unmute yourself to say goodbye or something, anything at all, if you'd like to.
Thank you, Leslie.
Yeah, thank you.
Leslie. Thank you, Patty.